Welcome back to Old War Stories with Uncle Jay. This one is entitled, That's My Pencil. I had one called, That's My Paper, but this is my pencil. This happened when I was in the 10th grade, 94, 95? 1994, 95, I think. Sounds about right. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, it was a long time ago. That was a long time ago, Jesus. Had a kid in my English class where this happened. His name was Steve Sherset. Sherset, I don't know what nationality the name was, but it was spelled Sjurset, and the J was like an H sound, so nobody could pronounce the name, but it was Sherset. That's how it was pronounced. Steve Sherset. He was one of the cooler kids, we can say, but he'd humor me, shall we say. He'd entertain me in a way that he wouldn't talk to me because I was a nerd, like the other kids would. He would talk to me. We weren't friends per se, but we would have a few words here and there. Just, a closer classmate than, that girl or guy or whatever in the back that you just don't associate with because they smell, or they're dumb, or they're ugly, or whatever it was. It's high school politics, So anyways, Steve Sherset, he was in first grade with me. And, we went to elementary school together, and we weren't always in the same classes, but you knew everybody, and we all had lunch together and stuff like that, because they do it by grade, like 3 grades at a time. So I knew Steve for many years. But as the years went on, and he became I'm cooler than you mentality, we didn't talk as much. But we still remained like, I don't hate you, and I'll talk to you every once in a while. But I really don't want to be caught talking to you, kind of thing. Put it that way. So here we are, English class. The teacher was pretty strict. Really cool guy. And I did well in his class because he basically spoon-fed everything to everybody, but we had some dumb kids. But he was a cool guy, nice guy. And quick funny aside, I once was called for jury duty many years after I was out of high school. 10, maybe. And a man who was bald, sat down while we're waiting to be called in for whatever case. And I said, this looks like my 10th grade teacher, Mr. Verdi. I said, God, is that him? And I couldn't tell where I was sitting. Like, I kind of tried to want to see like a profile, something. I couldn't quite tell. And finally he looked or turned around or something, and he didn't notice me. But I said, that's Verdi. That's him. Holy shit. I can't believe this. How do we get called into jury duty at the same time? So I leaned over and I said, excuse me, sir. And he turned around. I said, remember me? He said, Jason, how are you? How are you doing? And we just had a little talk, and that was that. And then we just sat there and we did our thing, waited to be called in. That was just cool. Nice guy, like I said. But he was very strict in the classroom. You had to be prepared. You had to have your homework. You had to have your English notebook. And he wanted a special type. He wanted a spiral-bound notebook that you could take the pages out, which any spiral book you can, but it had to have, this was kind of a newer thing at the time. I don't know if they're all like this now or what, they had the perforation, so you wouldn't get all the little jagged spiral edge stuff that you would get if you just tore it out. So it had the perforation. He said, that is the book you must have. So when you hand stuff in, it has to have nice clean edges. You must have a writing implement. I don't care if it's a pen or a pencil, or maybe it had to be a pen, but, you know, whatever it was. So we got into class, and Verdi had to, you know, leave the room for a minute. Adjacent to that room was the cooking room. And he was in with the cooking teacher, and she would give him some of the leftovers. So he basically had lunch every day. Was it good? She would taste test the stuff, so she'd probably give him the better stuff and throw out the really bad stuff. But he would take the leftovers and happily eat it. And whatever. That was all fine and good. So he left the room, and Steve is kind of looking around frantically like, oh shit, I don't have anything to write with. Hey Jay, can I borrow a pen? So I'm like, I don't have another pen, Steve, sorry. You got a pencil, anything? I said, I got a pencil. Can I borrow it, man? Can I borrow it? And I'm like, it's Steve. I mean, I know we don't really talk that much anymore, but we're not on bad terms with each other. All right, just make sure you give it back. I will. No worries. So Verdi comes back in, and we have our class. It was springtime. And for whatever reason, class that day ended 5 minutes early. In other words, our lesson ended 5 minutes early. The period, however, was still in effect for 5 more minutes. We had windows, casement windows, I guess you could call them. They slide sideways. And there were no screens in these windows. Yes, even on the upper floors. So if a kid wanted to jump out and land on the concrete on his head, he could do it. Never happened while I was there. Other things did. Could be a story for another time, but anyway. Class ended 5 minutes early. And I remember Verdi saying, he said, that's actually all I have for you today. We ended our lesson early. So you can just talk amongst yourselves until the bell rings, but we're all done. The only thing I ask is just keep it down to a dull roar. So we quietly talked amongst ourselves. And I kind of looked over at Steve, and he was talking to somebody else, and then he was talking to somebody else, and then he was talking to somebody else. And the windows were open. It was a nice day. And I don't have a pencil, but I'll use this as a prop, which goes on the little tripod I'm using usually when I'm on the washingmatory. Bend this down and it sits on, and then so you know how that works. But anyways, takes my pencil and he just goes, Pachoo! Throws it out the window. It landed on a flat part of the roof that was in front of that window. This was the upstairs. But there's no going out there to get it. It's gone. So I said, Steve, that's my pencil. Oh, sorry, man. Sorry, man. Oh, man, I'm sorry. I said, now I know why you didn't have anything to write with. I don't know if we talked anymore after that. But he definitely didn't ask me for another pen or pencil. So that's it for that one. That's really all there was to it. It was interesting how... I mean, I wasn't that... It was just a pencil. It's not anything. But even so, it's like, come on, I had another one in my locker, but now I wanted to have 2 pens and 2 pencils in my locker. So in case one would start to run out... I could run back, grab it if I needed it. It would be there for me. I didn't carry it around with me because sometimes pens would leak and stuff like that. But now I had to remember to bring another one in from home. We had tons of pencils. It wasn't a big deal, but even so, it was still just a pain in the ass. I don't know what happened to Steve. Oh well. Whatever it is, that was the story. So I thank you very much for watching, and I really appreciate it. Make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.